I used to love road trips with my friends. The kind where you pile into a car at 6 in the morning, nobody's fully awake, someone's already eating gas station chips, and you've got a playlist going that everyone pretends to hate but secretly knows every word to. That feeling of the city shrinking in the rearview mirror, the world getting quieter, the week ahead feeling like it belongs to you. I will never take a road trip again. My name is Ryan. I'm 26 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is the reason Marcus and Danny are gone, and the reason I wake up every single night at exactly 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, convinced I can still hear her humming. It was Marcus's idea. It always was. He was 28, the oldest of the three of us, the one who booked things and made plans and sent the group chat a link before anyone else had even thought about it. Danny was 24, the youngest, the funniest, the one who could make any situation feel lighter just by being in it. I was the quiet one, the one who always had a bad feeling about something but could never explain why. Marcus found the listing on one of those vacation rental apps, a cabin near Lake Dunmore in Vermont. Remote. The listing actually said that, like it was a selling point. Remote, private, surrounded by nature. Nearest town, 14 miles. He sent it at 11:30 on a Tuesday night with 3 words. This is it. The photos were stunning. A sprawling wooden house on the edge of a dark, glassy lake. A wraparound deck. Floor-to-ceiling windows facing the water. Pine trees pressing in from every side like a crowd. It looked like the kind of place you'd see in a film, the kind that makes you think, nobody actually stays there. That's just a set. But the price was low. The reviews were decent, and we had a week off. So, we booked it. The host, a man named Paul, was friendly in the app, responded quickly, answered our questions, seemed normal. But 3 days before we left, he sent us a message that I read twice before I put my phone down. It said, "Just a heads up, the property has a cleaner who stays on site during some bookings to handle maintenance and tidying. Her name is Eva. She's completely professional, very discreet, and will mostly keep to herself. She has her own space in the back of the property. You won't even know she's there. Enjoy your stay." Marcus replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Danny sent back, "Sounds good." I didn't reply. I just read the message again. And again. You won't even know she's there. We arrived on a Saturday afternoon. The drive had taken longer than expected. The last 20 minutes were on an unpaved road that wound through dense forest. No signal, no signs. Just trees and the occasional flash of dark water through the branches. The house was even bigger in person. It sat right at the lake's edge, a long wooden dock stretching out over the water. The lake itself was still, almost unnaturally still, like glass that hadn't been touched in years. No birds, no wind, just silence. Danny whistled low. This place is unreal. Marcus was already dragging his bag toward the front door. The key was in a lockbox, exactly where Paul said it would be. We were halfway through unloading the car when she appeared. She came from around the side of the house, not from the front door, not from a car, just from around the corner, like she'd been standing there the whole time. She was young, mid-20s maybe. Dark hair, pale skin, dark eyes that caught the light in a way that made them seem almost too bright. She was wearing a white linen shirt and carrying a folded stack of towels. She smiled at us. And I want to be careful how I say this, because I don't want it to sound like I'm exaggerating. When Eva smiled, it was the kind of smile that made you forget what you were about to say, like your brain just paused. "You must be the boys," she said. Her voice was soft and even, like she was reading something aloud. "I'm Eva. I'll be here most of the week. If you need anything, just ask." Marcus shook her hand first. He was grinning in a way I hadn't seen in a while. Danny introduced himself, went red, and started talking too fast about the drive. I nodded. I said hello. I watched her eyes. They didn't really move, not the way eyes normally move when you're meeting people. She looked at each of us in turn, slowly, like she was reading something on our faces. When her gaze landed on me, she held it a second longer than felt natural. Then she smiled again and went back inside. "She seems nice," Danny said. Marcus was still looking at the door she'd walked through. I picked up my bag and said nothing. That first evening was fine. We cooked dinner, played cards, sat on the deck and watched the sun go down over the lake. Eva moved quietly through the house, straightening things, replacing towels, always just at the edge of the room, always just visible. She brought us wine around 9, said it was from the host's cellar, a welcome gift. Marcus took his without hesitation. Danny reached for his. I looked at the glass for a moment, then said I was sticking with beer. She looked at me when I said that. Just briefly, that same long look. We went to bed around midnight. I remember lying there listening to the lake outside the window and noticing, again, that there was no sound, no frogs, no insects, nothing. Just water and silence. I fell asleep eventually. At some point in the night, I woke to the sound of a door, soft footsteps on the deck. I went to the window and looked out. Marcus was standing at the end of the dock, just standing there, looking out at the water. It was 3 a.m. The lake was completely black. I called his name once, quietly, through the glass. He didn't turn around. I told myself he was sleepwalking. I told myself people do that. I watched him for another minute until he turned and walked back inside, slow and steady, eyes open but not quite focused. In the morning, he didn't remember being outside at all. The next day, Marcus was different, quieter. He laughed less. He kept finding reasons to be near Eva, offering to help carry things, asking questions he didn't need the answers to, sitting in whatever room she was in. By the afternoon, he'd volunteered to help her with some task around the back of the house, and the two of them disappeared for 2 hours. Danny and I went kayaking on the lake. We didn't talk about Marcus, but I could tell Danny had noticed too. That night, Eva cooked for us. She said she liked to cook, that it was the least she could do. The food was incredible, rich and dark and flavored with things I couldn't name. Marcus ate 2 plates. Danny ate it slowly, kept watching her while she moved around the kitchen. I pushed mine around and ate maybe a third of it. After dinner, Marcus said he was tired and went to bed early. It was 8 p.m. That was not Marcus. Danny and Eva stayed at the table talking while I pretended to scroll my phone. I was watching them in my peripheral vision. She had her hand on the table, palm up, and Danny was leaning forward. She was saying something I couldn't quite hear, her voice low and melodic, almost rhythmic. I stood up and said I was going for a walk, just to get them to stop. Danny looked up at me like I'd interrupted something important. Eva just smiled. Outside, I walked to the edge of the dock and stood there. The lake, that impossible stillness, not a ripple. I looked down into the water, and I couldn't see the bottom, even in the moonlight, just black, like looking into something that went on forever. When I went back inside, Danny was already in his room with the door closed. Eva was standing at the kitchen sink, her back to me. She was humming, a slow, rising and falling melody that I'd heard before somewhere, that I couldn't place, that sat in my chest like something pressing from the inside. I went to my room and locked the door. Danny wasn't at breakfast. Marcus said he'd gone for a walk. I went to Danny's room and knocked. No answer. The door was unlocked. His bed was made. His phone was on the nightstand. His shoes were by the door. Nobody goes for a walk and leaves their phone. I went back downstairs. Eva was cleaning the windows. Marcus was sitting at the kitchen table watching her, coffee going cold in front of him. Danny left his phone, I said. He'll be back, Marcus said. He didn't look at me when he said it. I went outside and walked the perimeter of the property. I called Danny's name. Nothing. The trees were so dense past the garden that the light dropped immediately. I didn't go far. I came back in and started doing something I'm not proud of. I started looking through the house. I opened drawers, checked the cabinets, looked in the storage room near the back. In the storage room, behind a shelf of cleaning supplies, I found a wooden box. Inside were photographs. Guest photographs, the kind hosts sometimes keep as memories. Polaroids and printed pictures. Different groups of people. Different years. Some of them I could place by the clothes and the quality. In every single photo, there was someone at the edge of the frame who wasn't posing with the group. A figure. The same figure. Young. Dark hair. Pale. Eva. In photos that looked 20 years old, I stood in that storage room for a long time. Then, I put the box back exactly how I'd found it, walked calmly back to my room, and sat on the edge of my bed. Marcus was gone by the time I came out. His room was empty. His bag was still there. His keys were on the table. I sat at the window and watched the lake. And in the fading afternoon light, I thought I could see something out on the water. Two shapes at the edge, just at the tree line where the bank curved around. Still, like they were waiting. I didn't call out. I didn't go look. Something deep in me said, don't. I packed my bag in 4 minutes. I took my keys. I left everything else. Eva was standing in the hallway when I came out of my room with my bag. Like she knew. She always seemed to know. She was leaning against the wall, arms crossed. That same expression. Not quite a smile. Not quite something else. Watching me. Leaving early? She said. Family thing, I said. I kept walking. I didn't look at her eyes. Ryan. Her voice stopped me at the front door. I put my hand on the handle, but didn't turn around. She said, you're the smart one, aren't you? It wasn't a question. I opened the door, and I walked to my car, and I drove. I drove for 14 miles on that unpaved road with my eyes in the rearview mirror the entire time. I didn't stop until I had 4 bars of signal, and the town was visible ahead of me. I pulled over and called 911. They found the house. They found Marcus's bag and Danny's phone. They searched the lake and the surrounding woods for 3 days. They found nothing else. The host, Paul, was located 2 days later. He seemed genuinely confused. Said he hadn't sent anyone to stay at the property. Said he'd never employed a cleaner. Said the name Eva meant nothing to him. The listing has since been removed. I don't know what Eva was. I don't know what she did to Marcus and Danny. I don't know where they are. I have spent 18 months asking those questions, and the only answer I've come up with is this. Some places attract things we don't have names for. Some listings are too good to be true. And some smiles, the kind that make your brain go quiet, are not there to make you comfortable. They're there to make you stay. If you've ever booked a place and something felt off, even something small, even something you couldn't explain, I want to hear about it. Leave it in the comments. I read every one. And to Marcus and Danny, wherever you are, I'm sorry I couldn't bring you home.